All right, we're going to keep it going just so that we can maximize your time. We are going to be recording this meeting just because we know that there are a number of Fiskites who are interested but unable to attend. As mentioned, my name is Corrine Taylor. I'm treasurer for the Washington Fisk Alumni Association, and this is our Ghana 2027 informational call. We really are excited about the interest in this. This is our second group trip. Our first group trip was just this past September, our Fiskites in Paris trip, where we took 24 alums and their family and friends to Paris. If anyone was on or attended the Paris trip, can you just raise your hand just so we could see? I know Fanny was, Kimberly was. Yeah, we had a really great turnout, and we hope you've heard great things about that. In our preparation for the Paris trip, a place that came up quite often was Ghana, just because of all the ties to Fisk University. And Deborah is now on the line, so I'm going to turn it over to Deborah to do welcome.
Good evening and welcome. We're so glad you could join us for this information session on Ghana. We are happy to have so many of you here. Okay. I am Deborah Mitchell Curry, the Vice President of Fundraising for the Washington Fisk Alumni Association. And this is one of our latest fundraisers, our trip to Ghana. It's a 10-day trip. And as I said earlier, we are just so happy to have all of you. We hope that this session will provide you with most of the information, if not all the information that you will need to make a decision to join us on this wonderful, wonderful trip. And so on behalf of the fundraising committee, I say welcome. I'm gonna welcome you on behalf of the president and the entire executive board of the Washington Fisk Alumni Association. So many of you are here, and we hope that if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we hope that that we'll be able to answer all of those questions. Let me introduce our wonderful the person who is making all this possible, partner from the Onyx Group, Fiskite from the class of 2011, Angela Dye. And so she will be taking us through the actual itinerary for the trip. We have partnered with her, and she has done this trip on numerous occasions.
Travel dates will be February 12th through the 21st, 2027. That's a Friday to a Sunday. Angela really wanted us to have 2 full weekends in Ghana, so that these travel dates allow us to do that. The deadline to deposit is February 28th, 2026. So the cost of the trip, for double occupancy, the cost will be $5,500. For single occupancy, the cost will be $6,200. Because we're more than 330 days away from the travel dates. So we will not know the cost of the flight until March 27th, 2020. Didn't want to wait to release the trip information until the flight cost became available, because we wanted to provide everyone with the opportunity to start making payments. So with the February deadline for the deposit, that gives you 11 months to make the payments for this trip. And honestly, we encourage those that are interested to make your deposit even sooner so that you can begin paying your trip off as quickly as possible. For the cost of the flight, what we're seeing, just based on anticipating what's going to happen this February in comparison to next February, the costs are in the range of $1,000 to about $1,200. We are going to pursue looking at group travel, a group travel rate either through Delta or United. But again, we won't be able to see what that cost will be until March 27th of 2026. So what does that include? Your package will include 9 nights accommodation. Angela will go through the different types of hotels and the bed sizes and things of that nature for single and double occupancy. It includes hotel taxes, fees, and charges, airport transfer, and that's why we want to get us all on the same flight so we can arrive together and leave the airport together. You'll get 13 meals, 9 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, all your sightseeing and culture excursion, which will be outlined in the itinerary. What does the also it includes transportation via motor coach. You'll have service of multilingual tour guide, services for licensed tour guides, pre-trip and orientation, including this one and a few others that we're going to schedule throughout the rest of the year, visa support, a group t-shirt donation to WFAA, and your dedicated Onyx group support before and during the trip. What is not included in the 2 amounts that we shared for single or double occupancy is your international airfare, Ghana's entry fee visa fees, travel insurance, vaccination requirements, any alcoholic beverages, tips, personal expenses, or optional activities. How to pay. We have been utilizing 3 methods. We are using for those that want to use credit card, we have a tool called Zephy, which allows for credit card and debit card payments. Also, we use Zelle quite a bit for our club. And then for anyone who wants to pay via check, you can mail your check to Cheryl Easton, who's our financial secretary, and her address is here. The payment schedule for double occupancy, it's essentially a $500 a month from the deposit until the last payment, which is due December 10th. For single occupancy, that is $500 for the deposit, and then essentially $570 per month until the December 10th, where the final payment is due. The vaccination requirement, Ghana is one of the countries that has a risk for yellow fever. And so for those of you who've traveled abroad, you know that means you're going to have to get your yellow fever card. The cost of those vaccinations vary. We recommend you first checking with your insurance to see what they would cover. I know when I traveled to Africa last year or earlier this year, I got my vaccination at Costco and I got my yellow card from there. Angela confirmed that traditionally it's 10 years, Angela, but you said that now it's one vaccination covers you forever, essentially?
Yes, it's a lifetime vaccination now.
Okay. So if you've never received your yellow fever vaccination, we're going to encourage everyone that does go with us to do that by November 1st, because it's a requirement to get your yellow fever vaccination in place before you can get your visa. So after you've received your yellow card, fever certificate, that's when we'll be able to do the Ghana visa entry. The cost for a single entry is $60, and that's not covered by us in your fee that you'd be paying for your package. And that visa lasts for 90 days. So we'll be scheduling and doing a few like visa day walkthroughs, and Angela's going to reach out to the Ghanaian embassy here to see if we could do a group submission so that we just make this as easy as possible for everyone. But the cost of that is $60. And so I'm going to turn it over now to Angela to kind of walk through the itinerary, and then we'll be able to open it up for any kind of questions that you guys might have. Okay?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angela Adai. I currently live in Eugene, Oregon, and I am a Fisk class of 2011. I'm also here today in my capacity as Chief Synergist of Onyx Group, which is a Black-owned travel immersion company that highlights Ghana's entrepreneurship sector, art sector, and kinship amongst the diaspora. This company has been running trips to Ghana officially since 2022, unofficially since way before that. And so I'm just really excited to partner with the Washington Fisk Alumni Association to pull off this really incredible experience that I think will be ultimately life-changing. I wanted to share a little bit more about Onyx Group and also some ideas of what to expect for the trip. So super excited to be the person curating this experience. I am Ghanaian American, raised in the South and raised by parents who were really deep into HBCU culture. My parents still currently work at HBCUs, and I grew up on HBCU campuses. And so it's been really foundational for me to experience Black life, Black American life, mostly in the South, in addition to kind of bridging the gap between the diaspora in Ghana as a Ghanaian American. So we're calling this trip Ever on the Altar as sort of a double entendre to talk about, of course, Fisk and Fisk's legacy as an institution, but also Ghana's legacy as a nation. So I want to share a little bit more about Ghana. So Ghana is a fairly young nation. It got its independence on March 6, 1957. So it's a young democracy located in West Africa, with Burkina Faso to the north, Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire to the west, Togo borders the eastern side of Ghana, and then the southern border is the Gulf of Guinea, which enters into the Atlantic Ocean. So the capital city of Ghana is Accra. Accra is a really large city. It has about a population of 3 million people. It's a very young city, a very vibrant city, really concentrated, lots of people, lots of culture, lots of art, history, and it has become really the sort of commercial capital as well as the political capital of Ghana. So Ghanaian food is something that people often ask me about, so I thought I'd share a little bit here on what to expect from the food. So Ghana culture is such that they have a lot of traditional dishes. Many of those dishes are prepared in similar ways, usually starting with a base of tomatoes, ginger, onion, garlic sometimes, and then usually the dishes are paired with a carbohydrate like plantain, for example. Ghanaian foods are very healthy, very natural, very organic. So oftentimes people will note how fresh the food tastes when they are in Ghana and how it's truly free from preservatives. And most of the time when we go somewhere, the food is made to order. So it's oftentimes very fresh and very tasty. Okay, so for those interested in where Ghana is located, so Ghana is located in West Africa. Africa looks like sort of an ice cream cone tilted to the side. So right at the bottom of that ice cream is where Ghana is. Ghana is about the size of Oregon as a state. So it's not a very big nation, but it's certainly a quite impactful nation. It was one of the first nations in sub-Saharan Africa to be free from British colonialism, to gain its independence in 1957. So Ghana's movement towards independence in 1957 sort of happened right alongside the civil rights movement in the United States. So there are a lot of parallels between Pan-Africanness in the United States and the leaders of the anti-colonial movement in Ghana. So I was sharing a little bit about the food, that the stews are typically tomato-based, tomato, onions, ginger, pepper, garlic, paired with some type of starch or carbohydrate like plantain or yams or cassava. Food is very yummy. Ghana is a very peaceful country, but they are certainly at a war right now in terms of jollof rice. So you may have heard of the jollof wars, where people are debating on which country has the best jollof rice. Some argue that it's Nigeria, others argue that it's Ghana. So I look forward to seeing where you land in that debate. But I would argue that Ghana definitely has the best jollof rice. Much of Ghanaian food is actually eaten with people's hands. So you can see a dish here made with the okra base, and it resembles gumbo, the way that it has the okra and lots of seafood, fish, shrimp, crab is oftentimes served in this way as well. So it reminds me a lot of a gumbo type of stew. Also, I mentioned earlier that the food is really fresh, including the protein. So even the chicken, even the fish. So oftentimes fish will be served like this, grilled with a full fillet of fish, including the head on the fish. So don't be surprised if you get a full fish with the head, and then you can see it paired with the banku in the back, which is this starch fish. So Fisk, as Kareem mentioned earlier, has a strong legacy in Ghana. The most notable would be that of W.E.B. Du Bois, who spent the end of his life in Ghana at the invitation of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who was Ghana's first president after independence. So again, I mentioned that there is this really strong connection between Fisk University and Ghana as a nation. As part of Du Bois's legacy in Ghana, there is the W.E.B. Du Bois Memorial Center located in Accra, where Du Bois is actually buried. So when we go to Accra, we will visit his final resting place, where you can see his grave and tombstone. And this picture on the screen is a group of Fiskites that were recently there. Earlier this year, actually, my group, with the honors group, we placed this Fisk banner there. There was no Fisk banner above Du Bois's grave, and so we brought it there to commemorate that legacy. Fisk also has an interesting legacy with the Fisk Jubilee Singers. The Fisk Jubilee Singers recorded their album Sacred Journey in Ghana, in Cape Coast, Ghana in 2007. And during that time and subsequently, they were led by Dr. Paul Kwame, who is also a native of Ghana, the late. Fisk has an ongoing study abroad program with Ghana as well, the University of Ghana. So you can see me here in this photo with the blue over my shoulders. This is from 2009, where myself and a few other Fiskites, I think there were 7 of us total, who traveled to Ghana and spent a semester abroad at the University of Ghana. So that legacy continues, and Fisk continues to have short-term and long-term exchange programs with the University of Ghana. So I say that the Fisk legacy continues, and it's going to continue with you all as well, because we're continuing to bridge the gap between Ghana and the rest of the diaspora, and we're doing so one Fiskite at a time. So this trip is upcoming in February 2027. You'll actually arrive in Ghana on February 12th, but because it's an overnight flight, you'll depart the United States on February 11th. And so you'll arrive in Ghana and be greeted, picked up from the airport by our team, and we'll usher you through the entire experience from the time that you land to the time that you leave the airport.
She said November. She said more late.
As Kareem mentioned, I won't go over these in detail, but you do need a valid passport. U.S. citizens also need a visa for Ghana. Those of you who might be holding a passport from a different country would have to check and see if you need a visa or not. For example, Jamaican passports do not need visas to Ghana, so just depends on the type of passport you hold. A visa is just a sticker in your passport, but it has to be issued by the Ghanaian embassy or consulate. So that's something that has to be pre-authorized prior to traveling to Ghana. You also need a yellow fever vaccine, but if you have a reason why you might not be able to get a yellow fever vaccine, like some type of medical exemption, you would just need a letter from your physician explaining that. And then you would also need an anti-malaria drug, and there are different versions of that as well. So we have 10 days in Ghana and a packed itinerary with lots of options for pretty much everyone. Ghana is such a rich place because it has, it's full of art, it's full of history, it's full of food, it's full of culture, it's full of music, fashion. So pretty much anything that you could possibly be interested in, you'll find a way to fulfill that interest in Ghana. We try to capture a broad scope of the activities in our itinerary, also leaving some room for people to engage in other things they might find interesting. So for example, the Nchim Chim Museum is located in Ghana's Volta region. And if you've ever been to the Legacy Museum by the Equal Justice Institute in Montgomery, you may have seen some sculptures by the sculpturist Kwame Akoto Boafo, and he also has a museum in Ghana with his sculptures there as well. So that might be something interesting. Many people have heard of Cape Coast Castle and the Door of No Return. We will definitely visit that to get a glimpse of that history in real time. We visit 3 different regions. So Accra is in the greater Accra region. We also visit the Volta region, which is where my family is from. And then we visit the central region, which is where Cape Coast is located. So we get a really, I think, comprehensive view of not only the city and the urban environment, but also the rural environment and traditional practices within the rural environment. And people call them villages. So you go into the village. And you also get a dose of the history, right? As it relates to the transatlantic slave trade. So lots to see and do in Ghana. We also engage in a traditional naming ceremony, which is really exciting for people to get to have that recognition and reclamation of their heritage as descendants of Africa. So Karine wanted me to talk a little bit about the room structures because they are not super intuitive. So a typical hotel room in Ghana looks like this, which is pretty standard. Single occupancy rooms usually have either a queen or sort of an oversized queen size bed, which is great for individuals as well as couples sharing a bed. When two people want to share a room and they're not related to each other, they can pursue a double occupancy room, but the double occupancy rooms are usually only twin size beds. So we wanted to make sure that that was clear as people are making their choices about whether they wanted single occupancy or double occupancy. Effectively, the twin size beds are usually really close together in this way. So you don't get the same double queen like we would in a hotel in the US. Usually if they have 2 beds in a room, they're going to be twin size beds and they are going to be nestled really close together. So that's something to consider if you are traveling with a friend or a fraternity or sorority, a sister or brother, or a non-romantic partner or spouse. So here's another glimpse of the room setup where you have those twin size beds nestled right close together. Okay, and it sounds like we'll be taking questions at the end. So I look forward to hearing from you all and happy to answer any questions you might have.
So we wanted to give you guys this opportunity to ask as many questions as possible, both of Angela, me, and Deborah, just so that we can all be on the same page. No question is a dumb question. We know that we're curious, educated people, and traveling, especially, for many of us, our first time to Ghana, might present some anxieties or just some uncertainty. So we wanted to provide this all to allow people to ask questions. So we got our first question from Fanny. Go for it.
Yes. So on the payment schedule, I took a snapshot of it, and it has the double occupancy price of $500 a month payment. It looks like it's less than the single occupancy of $570 a month. Looks like it should be the opposite.
Yeah, $5,500.
Yeah, $5,500, and then single is $6,200.
I see. Okay. Okay.
Let me make sure I get that right. Sorry if that was incorrect.
Yeah, it says single because it's just like we showed the picture. It's just one bed. But
give me the prices again, please. Single is the total amount is
$6,200.
Okay, and double is 55.
Yes.
And so double occupancy would be the shared rooms with
the twin bed.
With the twin
like we did
beds.
in Paris.
Yes. Okay, and that's per person.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have another question here in the chat. Let me see.
It's two questions.
Okay. The first one is, where do we depart from? Great. So,
And Angela answered that.
yeah.
Dulles.
So the goal is we're still waiting to hear because we're so many days out from what it would look like. And the two airlines that fly are Delta and United. United flies directly from Dulles, and then Delta flies directly from JFK. And so, depending on what the options are and what the most reasonable price is, we're going to go with either Delta or United. And what I know we can do, because I've already checked on it, like if there's different people who, like, say for instance we choose Delta, that means we'd be flying out of JFK. That means us in DC, we would have to fly from DC to JFK. As long as we're all on the JFK portion, people coming in from different locations would still be considered part of that group. So that's what we're hoping to do, whether it's the Dulles flight, which is going to be United, or JFK. What we encouraged people to do for our Paris trip, since we all were flying out of Dulles, the group rate covered the Dulles part. And so people like Fanny, for instance, they flew in and they got a separate flight to get them to DC in advance so that we all could fly together. Let's see, we've got some other great questions. Okay, yep, Angela's been answering. What type of anti-malaria medication do you recommend? This is Sylvia's question. She's lived in Ghana and got sick.
Yes, thank you for that question. So the anti-malarial drug is usually a tablet or capsule, and it's going to be, there's a couple different types. One type is the type that you take once a week, and then there's another type that you'll take daily. So you can choose and talk to your doctor about which one you prefer. But you usually have to start taking them 2 weeks before you arrive in Ghana. I see some questions about the flights as well. So the flights that Karine is arranging for group flights will be a direct flight straight from JFK to Accra, or from Washington, D.C. to Accra, from Dulles to Accra. And those flights are usually 9 hours, quite long, but depending on the time, you probably might sleep like 4 or 5 hours if you are someone who can sleep on a plane, but it tends to go by pretty quickly. So, and no layovers. In terms of reading recommendations, yes, I actually do have some reading recommendations, including Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi would be a good book to start with if you're into fiction or historical fiction. And I can put together some other recommendations to send out if folks are interested in reading. I highly encourage people to just genuinely learn a little bit about the country that they're traveling to, especially the history. Ghana has a really unique history because of its role in the Pan-Africanist movement, and Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first president, has an entire mausoleum where he was buried. And so we'll be taking some time to learn about Ghana's history when we get to Accra. What's the weather like in February? It's going to be hot. It's going to be hot and dry. So I would anticipate in February the temperature would average about 85 to 87 degrees, something like that. So not scorching, but certainly warmer than the DMV area in February. So you can prepare for warm temperatures, which would include light clothing, light fabrics. Ghana is a little bit more on the conservative side in terms of dressing. So I usually encourage people to not wear things that are super exposing and things like that. And then lastly, I see Wendy's question, which is, will we receive a daily itinerary in advance? Yes, we absolutely will. And as we get closer to the trip, we'll have much more details as it relates to where we'll be and when and what to wear and how to prepare for that. 2 dinners are included. Those 2 dinners are group dinners, one of which is the welcome dinner when we arrive. So we have a catered welcome dinner for the group.
There is another question in the chat.
Okay.
Is the initial deposit or any subsequent installments refundable?
So
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
The initial deposit is not refundable, but subsequent installments are refundable based on the time that the refund is requested. I think we have it in the contract. If it's closer to after December 12th, there are no refunds.
Yeah, December 12th is the cutoff date. We wanted to make sure that we adhere to Angela's requirements. And so any cancellations after December 12th will not be refundable. Before then, it'll be subsequent to any kind of payments that we've already made, like around flights. But we understand things happen. But that's also like people are bringing this up in the comments. We're going to require that everyone get travel insurance. We have a document that kind of goes through everything we discussed here with a checklist of the requirements, and we require that everyone get travel insurance. If people have their own policies, that's fine, but we're going to also look into a group policy just to protect everybody. And the initial deposit is $500. I see that in the chat, and the deadline to pay your deposit is February 28th. But if you wanted to make a deposit before that, we highly recommend it so that you can just begin making your payments. The final deadline for all payments is December 10th, and that's the monthly schedule. Everything will be due every month. You have a monthly payment due.
And it is $500 for the initial deposit, as we said.
Yep.
Alcoholic beverages are not included in the package.
Yes, so those are let's see. And Angela shared that we'll be staying at 3 hotels. Can you talk a little bit about that? We're not going to be staying in the same place the whole time.
Yes, so we will travel to 3 different regions. We'll start off in Accra, and then we will do an overnight trip to the Volta region. So by bus, the Volta region is about 3.5 hours, a road trip. And so we spend a night when we get there. We stay in a hotel called the Volta Serene, which is nestled up in the hills, really pretty view overlooking the city of Ho, Ghana, Ho. And then also we'll travel to the central region where that is the location of the Cape Coast Castle, the door of no return. So we'll also spend one night there. Cape Coast is about 3 hours by bus as well. And the hotel that we'll stay in is on the beach. It's right on the beach. So you can step outside your door and have your feet in the sand. And in Accra, we will stay right in the heart of the city, accessible to all the places that we'll be going. I mentioned Accra is a huge city, but also I want to mention that the properties that we'll be staying in and pretty much every vendor on the trip is going to be Black owned. That's one thing that sets Onyx Group apart, is the fact that it really focuses on and prioritizes Black owned businesses. Because Ghana is our home, we really care a lot about the economy and Ghanaian people, and we want to make sure that tourism dollars that are coming into the country are circulated amongst Ghanaians and are able to actually trickle down and help people. So we really prioritize working with Black owned businesses to facilitate the trips. How many people, let me go back. How many suitcases? Okay, usually people have depending on the flight. Actually, Karine, I'm not sure if there'll be any luggage restrictions on the flight, but usually people are able to bring 2 checked bags in addition to their carry-on.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be. We'll, of course, confirm once we determine what airlines we're going to use for the group rate flight, but it's typically 2 checked and your carry-on for in your personal bag. Let's see. What is the maximum number of travelers for this group? Max.
We haven't placed a max in place, but we are planning for like 25 to 40 probably at the upper end. It's probably going to be 30, upper 30s, lower 40s maximum. I mean, we can accommodate more, but just sort of realistically, that's what we're planning for. I think you said 27 people traveled to Paris.
It was 24.
24 people traveled to Paris. And so assuming that Paris is indicative of the interest that we might have for Ghana, you can imagine something between 25 to 40 people.
The minimum though is 20. To make this go, we need 20 people. That's what we've contracted for. Yeah.
The conversion rate and then the quality of water. So the conversion rate fluctuates. Right now, it's about 11 cities, and a city is spelled CEDIS, but pronounced like Oklahoma City or Kansas City. But that's the currency, the Ghanaian city. And it right now is about 11 to $1. Which usually means that if you are going to pay for something like a meal, a dinner at a nice restaurant, you might spend about $20. If you were going to have lunch, something smaller and quick, you might pay about $11 or $13. So this kind of gives you an idea of what to expect when you are traveling. Fluctuate as well. So some people like to spend a lot of money in terms of buying souvenirs and paintings and arts and sculptures and things like that. Most of those transactions will be in cash. So I always say cash is king in Ghana, because usually you are going to be doing transactions in cash, unless you're at a restaurant or something like that, then you have a chance to use your card. But generally you want to keep cash on you. And they do prefer cities over dollars for the local merchants. So usually the currency and the economy operates in cities. I saw the Mitchells had a question about the water. Did you want to elaborate? Yes.
You're on mute still, Diane.
I think you're still on mute.
Okay, I'm here. Sometimes when you travel, you have problems with the quality of the water. That's what I was referring to when I asked about the beverages. I wasn't asking about the alcohol, but
Oh,
with
sorry.
the water quality. No problem. I understand how you, but that was the big part of the question.
You sure you don't want us to pay for all your drinks? So we pretty much only drink bottled water.
Okay.
And the bottled water is safe. Even in restaurants, we also use bottled water there as well. So pretty much the only time you might even be exposed to tap water, it might be if you're brushing your teeth. We even discourage people from getting drinks with ice cubes as well for that very reason, because we want to be able to always have a handle on the quality of water. And so bottled water is pretty much the way to go. And even when we're brushing our teeth, sometimes we use bottled water to brush our teeth.
Okay, thank you.
May I pick up on that question? We traveled to Addis Ababa several years ago, and the term there was using gas water. In other words, water that has bubbles in it, as opposed to bottled water, which might be refilled from the local supply.
Yeah, usually they have high restrictions on their bottled water. There's usually a seal on it to verify that it's coming directly from the company to validate that, so we don't have concerns about it being in an unauthorized way.
I have another question, and it relates to the flights. I know you're working on the flights at the moment, but is the plan to have the flight come directly to the departure city, so that a flight from Dulles will go to Accra and then come back to Dulles, as opposed to come from Dulles to Accra, Accra to Newark, and then to Dulles?
It would be direct. If we go United, it'll be Dulles, Accra to Dulles. Since the WFAA, the majority of our members are here in DC, we most likely, if we go the Delta route, which is the JFK leg, it would be Dulles or DCA to JFK to Accra and then back like that. For people who are outside of the DMV, we're going to recommend that they get a flight to either Dulles or JFK to join us in that group. We also, if we are large enough where a number of us are close to Atlanta, we could break up our group that way too, because the minimum is 10. So say we had 10 people closer to Atlanta, we could we can, figure out how to get that group since now they're nonstops from Atlanta to Accra. It just really depends on where the majority of us who are going are from.
Thank you.
And we try to be as accommodating as possible because we like for people to go in groups so that it's not like a singular person traveling by themselves. We want at all possible costs.
It just makes things easier for Angela and Onyx Group also if we know that we're all arriving at this time or around this time, then when we arrange the buses, we're all leaving on those buses together. And that's what we did for Paris.
Yeah.
Either people were flying out of Newark and that was 3 people, or it was 19 of us or 20 of us, however.
21 of us.
21 of us out of Dulles, and we arrived within about 10 minutes of each other and we're all on the same shuttles. So that's what we want to do for this too. Anyone else? We're trying to be thorough so you can know and feel comfortable. Ghana is not my expertise, so I'm really excited that we have a Fiskite, Angela, who can do this for us, and she's been doing it for years and taking Fiskites there particularly for years. So it's great to delegate the planning of this to someone who, one is Ghanaian, but then incredibly knowledgeable. Our goal is just to provide a unique experience for Fisk alums, and it's not limited to Fisk alums. If you have family and friends who want to go, the trip is open to them as well. Paris, we had, friends of Fisk, other HBCUs, Fiskites' wives, all of that come along too. And so it's open to anyone who wants to join us. Kirsten?
I have a quick question, a couple questions. So is it possible to get the visa on site at the airport?
Yes, it is possible to get a visa on arrival, or sometimes they might refer to it as an emergency visa. There is a price difference, and so the pre-authorized visa is $60, and the visa on arrival is usually about $150. So because it's double the price, for sure, but because it's double the price, we encourage you to get the pre-authorized one.
Yeah.
And do you know if the one there is 2 years or the 6 months or year?
Yeah, the visa on arrival is more expensive at $150, and it's also a single entry visa, meaning you can only use it one time. Whereas the $60 one is also single entry, you can use it one time. But if you want to get your visa in advance and you want a multiple entry visa, meaning you can use it for sometimes they have one for 3 years, sometimes they have one for 5 years where you can have unlimited entry and exit. The multiple entry visa, when it's pre-authorized, is also $150.
And then one last question. Thank you for that. So the naming ceremony, is that or will we do that where the Cape Coast, where the door of no return, will we do that on that day? Do you know?
No, we'll probably not do it that day. So there are some really I'm not sure if you've been to Ghana or familiar with the history, that history in particular, but there's certainly some emotionally heavy moments in this trip, and the door of no return is one of them. It is a time to reflect on just the grave atrocity that was the transatlantic slave trade. But most of the time people don't realize that you're actually there where it happened. You're standing in the dungeons where people were held. There is the stench in the air because of the human excrement and decomposition and sweat and all that blood that happened and was, just was settled on the ground. Like you're standing on top of it. So that experience is really emotionally taxing. Whereas in contrast, the traditional naming ceremony is more of a jubilatory experience where it's, it symbolizes rebirth and reclamation. And so we do those separately. I know there's some people who might join those two activities together, but they really have very different meanings. One is sort of a recognition of loss, and the other is, is a recognition of like new life. And so we do our traditional naming ceremony in the Volta region, where you actually you become a member of a community. So you meet the tribal leaders and you meet the elders, and they actually give you that place as a home. And so that is something that is really touching and a gesture of, again, just being welcome and sort of solidarity as well.
So it'll probably be done the day before we go to the door of no return, since we go into the Volta region first.
So right, we're going to the Volta
after Cape Coast. And the reason I'm asking is because what you just said, it is just like going to African American Museum. There's a fountain of reflection or something to help you decompress after that. So I was wondering if something you planned after that event could help us all
yes.
Exhale, decompress before we continue the day, because you're right, it is heavy. So, okay. And then one last question. I am considering bringing my young son. And so even though it'll be two of us, I'll probably get a single occupancy for the bigger bed. Is something like that an option to bring children?
Yes, definitely. We hosted many children. The youngest, I used to say the youngest was 3, but now the youngest, it was 8 months. And then all the way up to youth that were sophomores in college. So, and a bunch of 11-year-olds, some 14-year-olds, 8-year-olds. So we've kind of had a range of ages and have been able to make sure that they are really well taken care of on the trip, and they really enjoy themselves too. Sometimes even going as far as having separate activities for kids, depending on what they're interested in and what they might get out of the trip. So definitely your child is welcome, and you and I can work together to talk about what that might look like in terms of booking the package and how to go about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I mean, it's great to be thorough, but we don't want any stone unturned. And it's really great to see 26 people. We were at first it was like 10, then it was 16, then it jumped up to 26. So we're excited to see this interest. And what we do hope you us after this meeting, since you registered, and that's why we needed you to register, we can get your email addresses. We're going to forward you the slide that I presented that Angela shared. We'll also forward you the checklist from WFAA and just the participant agreement, so you can be aware of the payment plan, the dates, and all of that. Also, we have a Zephy link. Those in our club know that we use Zephy for our payments, So we'll be accepting payments via Zephy, Zelle, or check. And say, for instance, you want to go and you don't want to make the full deposit today. I've set it up so that you can make a $250 deposit now and then, do that later. We want to accommodate you as much as possible. For those that for sure are interested, we encourage you to make your deposit as soon as possible so you can just get the remaining payments to stay on that 11-month cycle. Just be ahead and get them over with, just so that you can get it out the way. But we're really excited about this. We've also talked at length with Angela about accommodating various mobility issues or concerns, just so that everyone of all ages in our Fisk family can feel comfortable and attend. So we've just been talking about this for at least 5-6 months. I don't know, it's been a while, but we've just tried to be very thorough to make it a worthwhile experience. If there aren't any more questions anymore.
We will be emailing you the link, the Zephy link. It's a picture, and once you click on it, it will bring up the information. You fill it in, and as Karina said, Zephy lets you pay through your bank, through your credit card, your debit card, but we have a number of options, payment options. And so we are open, and we do appreciate you being here tonight.
And one more thing, just to remind you, for your passport, the expiration of your passport needs to have at least 6 months from February 1st, 2027 on it to be considered valid. So right now is a great time to check your passport to see when the expiration date is so that you can begin the process of going ahead and renewing your passport. We ideally, for everyone who is attending, we want to get all of those administrative things out of the way by November 1st so that we can just focus on getting the visa at the top of 2027. So now's a good time to check your passport. And again, you need 6 months from the last day of your trip from that departure. So 6 months from February 21st, 2027 for your passport to be valid. We're going to schedule maybe one more webinar where we actually have some people, some Fisk alums who've gone with Angela to Ghana, kind of share their experience. We hope to do that early, maybe February, March, just to, I guess, right around the time of the deposit. And then from those in our Paris group know, we send emails regularly. We're going to be doing our best to keep you informed and prepared so we can kind of minimize any logistical errors that might come up. But we're all learning and doing this together. So having Angela guide us through it will be really critical and important. But Angela, any closing remarks before we wrap it up?
Feel free to reach out with questions, especially as they come up or as you're contemplating maybe needing an accommodation or you have a particular interest in mind. Anything that comes up for you as you're deliberating on this, just let us know, because it's also helpful for us to know what questions are coming up for people so that we can make sure that everyone has all of the information that they need. Thank you, everyone, and looking forward to meeting some of you.
Okay. Well, thanks, Angela. Thanks, Deborah. Thanks, everyone who attended. Please spread the word. We would love if it was 40 Fisk guys. That would be amazing. We would love to see a great big group of us go to connect and to travel. So thank you all for your time. We hope you had a Merry Christmas, and we wish you a Happy New Year. And we look forward to connecting with you in 2026. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.
Good night.